What was the strangest moment in your life that you still can't explain up to this day? After I totaled my car, a man with burn scars all over his face and hands came to my window. He asked if I was okay and then came and sat in the passenger's seat. He said, "I need you to know that everything happens for a reason." I said, "I know." The next thing I know, I'm talking to the other driver and police and the guy is just gone. No one else saw him. I was walking home one day and when I passed this one old dude's house and his dog was outside, and when I walked past I could have sworn the dog told me to get the FCK off the property in perfect English. I once heard a cat say FCKU. Granted, I had drank a bottle of cough syrup and was hanging out near the landfill in a boat in an ex-boyfriend's backyard. I was a stupid teenager. But I still remember the voice I hallucinated saying "fuck you" for the cat was so clear. I had a dream once and within the next month, everything from that dream happened in real life. For example, in the dream my wife rearranged our room, which is weird because she hates rearranging stuff, and then the next week she arranged it exactly like dream. In the dream I also got promoted, and then less than a week later I did in real life. I get a decent amount of deja vu moments. I can always tell they are starting where it's like a certain location and I'm looking at just the right angle and I'm like, yoo-ho, I know what's gonna happen next. That person's gonna come around that corner and talk to me about X. Weirds me out too much. When I was in my teens, my dad relapsed into his drug and alcohol addiction again. It was the last straw for my mom and I. And we took off in the car at night to go for a drive and get out of the house. We were both angrier than we'd ever been. As we drove down the street, each streetlight we passed popped and went dark. For at least 3 blocks. At the time it really felt like our anger was so destructive that it was affecting the world around us. My mom and I still talk about that night and wonder WTF was going on with those lights. My mom was looking at an old photo album and talking about a party that she organized for her co-workers more than 25 years ago. She said that it was nice of me to have helped her there setting up the tables, etc. I have zero recollection of that party. Nothing. So I thought she was joking. Then she showed me the pictures and I'm there. WTF. It's not like I was a kid. I was maybe 19 or 20. I wonder what else my brain erased. I was at a gas station and just finished buying something from inside. I came out and a burly man with a t-shirt that had some sort of meat business on it came up to me asking if I was interested in purchasing bulk frozen meats. I was absolutely broke except for about $500 on my credit card available. I didn't want to buy anything but my mouth blurted out yes as if my life depended on it. A few minutes later I went home with a month's worth of vacuum sealed fish and chicken. I don't know what said yes, but it wasn't me. I told work I had to go out of town for a week for a family member's, my grandmother's cousin in Texas, funeral. Completely fictitious. In reality I just wanted time off to hang out at the luxury home my friend was house sitting. Hot tub. Full bar. etc. The day my vacation started, I got a call that my grandmother's cousin passed away and they were going out of town for the funeral and expected me to go with them. Well, the username I used was originally the name of the demon that haunted my nightmares. The more I used this username, the less often he would appear until probably my 22-ish birthday, where I have not had a nightmare with him in it since. I used to have nightmares so much that I literally had to go see a therapist because I would have them about 70% of the time when I slept. I would stay up for fear of having another nightmare. It is a horrible feeling. Not wanting to go to sleep, but knowing that you have a test the next day. Also, you would think I would not be a jumpy person, having had a nightmare problem before. But part of the reason I had them was that I thought, what if someone comes in and kills me? What if some creature is in my closet? And is that shadow moving? I feel bad for you. Have an internet hug. I was living abroad when my grandfather passed away. On the day he passed away, I was feeling tired and weird the whole day without knowing why, so I went back to my place and took a nap. Later I woke up from my nap with a severe stomach cramp that left me out of breath, feeling like I was going to die that instant. That lasted about a minute or two. I felt strange and went on to call me mom, only to discover that my grandpa just passed away at the exact timing of my stomachache. In Eastern culture, my grandfather and I are of the exact same zodiac animal, even down to the element. So my family believed we shared a connection of sort. Sadly, I only knew till he's gone. I saw my doppelganger while driving in a parking lot. We passed each other going super slow and made eye contact. We both started laughing and then continued on. My wife was sitting in the passenger seat and saw him as well. It was super weird and really fun for whatever reason. We still talk about it 10 years later. I regret not stopping and finding the guide to take a photo together. I saw Santa driving one day and I was so giddy from it my husband thought I was crazy for being so happy. It was like October or something and this guy was dressed up in a good quality suit and he had a real beard and everything. It was amazing. You know what? I live in Vancouver, Canada. I bet you B was filming something in the area. When I was young I saw burglars tiptoeing around my kitchen, about 3-4 of them. I didn't say anything or move, I just watched them and went back to sleep. But when I woke up in the morning nothing was missing. You probably dreamed it, but also, most professional burglars are unlikely to continue a robbery after that. Once they're seen, they're out of there fast. It's not a violent career path. Then again, most professional burglars also rob during the day when the house is empty and it looks less shady. My husband works with clients doing trauma healing type work, often via Skype, Zoom, even pre-COVID. Years ago, he had a client session, so went into the living room where he usually did his calls. I went into our bedroom and shut the door and was going to spend the hour working on my laptop. About 20 minutes in, I suddenly got this weird skin crawling feeling out of nowhere and looked up from my laptop, only to see a man, kinda hologram fuzzy, like there but not there, walk into my room with what looked like a gunshot wound to his head. Told my husband, wondering WTF was that. I swear I saw. Ends up the woman he was working with had lost her husband 5 months prior. He was in the military and had returned from combat, had severe PTSD and eventually killed himself. And yes, by gunshot to the head. I was at work several years ago, and a co-worker, S, had a massive seizure. He later told us he had never had one before. Everyone started freaking out, and a man came over and gently held S down because he was in danger of slamming into a desk. When the seizure passed, the man stood up and said ambulance should be here soon. So my work is done and left. The weird thing? Nobody had any idea who that guy was. We were all so concerned about S that we didn't really register that the guy was a stranger until S was taken to the hospital. We were in a building that required a keycard to enter, and it was closed to the general public. There were only 12 of us in that office, and he wasn't one of us. So who the hell was he? When I was a child I had a dream where a monster opened my closet door and chased me all the way to my parents' room. My parents said it was just a dream, but I have never sleepwalk. I saw it chase me to their room and the closet door was open, which I never opened, much less slept with it open. So I either had a sleepwalking night terror or monsters are real and I almost died. A woman came to shop where I used to work. I greeted her with a smile and offered my help if needed. For like a good 10 minutes she kept walking around and looking at me like she knew me. I didn't mind and just did my thing. A few minutes later, by the biggest coincidence, I ended up cashing her out. She stared at me the whole time like she was looking through my soul, and she said out of nowhere, "Don't ever change who you are." I was so confused when it happened, and I still kind of am. I have what I call totally useless precognition. I routinely dream about mundane events. People in a room having a discussion, going to a concert and getting dinner beforehand. A random conversation. When the events occur, I very clearly remember having the dream about it. Nothing happens. There's no event. There's no important thing. It's just that I dreamt about it months or years before. Totally useless precognition. I once knocked on my brother's door. Got the feeling you get after a damn good stretch when you leave the universe for a second, but multiplied by like 50. When I got my vision back, the bookshelf that was behind me was destroyed. I think I fell into it, and then my brother opened the door. So it took place within like a few seconds, so I don't think I fainted. But it was just really confusing. When I was 11, I was hanging out at my friend's grandma's place for a party, and we were on her dirt road playing around on bikes at like midnight because the party was still raging on. I go off a few yards into the darkness away from the only street light for about 500 feet, and out in the bushes beside the road this ball of light, I'd say the size of my fist, comes out of the bushes and then sinks back behind something. At first I think it's one of the other kids with some weird flashlight, but after calling out there was nothing. The way that light moved was weird to me. It was very fluid and loopy, if that makes sense. Sorta the same motion a conductor moves their pointer for music, if anyone has seen that before. I can't really find any scientific explanation, so I'll just assume it was a ghost or fairy or something. Okay. This happened at my grandma's house. I was lying awake on the couch in the middle of the night when this kaleidoscope of colors and lights appeared on the ceiling and began moving around the walls. I silently watched it until it disappeared and went to sleep. I shared the living room with my sister, and my grandma slept in a chair to keep us company. Since it was dark and I hadn't heard anything, I assumed I was the only still awake to see it. The next morning at the breakfast table, my grandma brought up the light show she had seen the night before and didn't seem to know what it was. She described what I'd seen perfectly. After she left the table, my dad and aunt both seemed very concerned that she might be losing her mind. In my little kid brain, I thought if I told them I'd seen it too, they might think the same about me, so I kept quiet about it. If it hadn't been for the fact she'd seen it too, I wouldn't have chalked it up to a number of things. But I honestly don't know what to make of it. Staying at grandparents for the weekend, they're eating dinner and dining room, I'm in living room. Open concept house, everyone sees each other, power is lost, lights are out, dark as could be. Power comes back on in what seems like 1 second. Grandmother is asleep in her bedroom and my grandfather was out in the garage. It has FK'd with me my whole life, 31 now, I was about 5 or 6 at the time. Sadly both have passed by now. Only Matrix situation that messed up in my life so far. I once met this really weird dude from Montreal in NH, and was trying to tell my one friend all about it. We went to Montreal and I was like, maybe I'll hit up my buddy, ha ha ha, but obviously I didn't. We stepped out of our Uber at the restaurant we were going to and there he was. Montreal is a city of 2 million people. This was over 2 years ago and the odds still keep me up at night. Friends and I in my shitty Mazda smoking weed in the alley behind my GFS house. Neighbor walks out and starts punching an electric pole until his hands look like hamburger meat and there is blood soaking his white shirt. He calmly walks back into his house. We uncalmly get the FCK out of there. I woke up in the middle of the night to pee. I stepped into the bathroom and as soon as I flipped on the light, the toilet flushed. I turned around and went right back to bed. 85% sure I wasn't dreaming. See, last time I wandered in the bathroom before turning on the light was because the damn sewer backed up. Nothing like half asleep taking like 4 steps in the bathroom across an absolutely soaked floor, start to pee in the toilet before it dawned on me my feet were very wet. In high school my friend and I were having lunch in the cafeteria. She was eating penne pasta and one of the noodles fell. We tried to find it to clean up and never found it. It just disappeared. It was an inside joke for years. I was T-boned in an intersection. Not a very serious accident. Mostly just shaken up. I was out of state at college at the time. Minutes after the accident, my cell phone rang and it was my dad. He said all of a sudden he was consumed with an overwhelming urge to call me. And was everything okay? I told him I was in an accident. He has passed away since, but he and I always had a very strong connection. I wish he would call me now. But then I guess it would be the strangest moment. 7-8 years ago I got an email that was something along the lines of, "Hi. This is person I don't know. I'm trying to transfer $3.162.45 into your account but need updated banking info. Please send your new account number so I can send you the money. Obvious scam. But I got this email late at night and I'd been drinking. And the address didn't look sus. And I thought, what can they steal with just an account number? Nothing, right? I was broke. I only had like $200 in the account anyways. Just give it and see what happens. I check my account the next day. And there's the $3,200. I got the money. I spent the money. Nothing ever happened. I haven't heard anything else from them since. The money was real. I got it. I spent it. My bank never said anything. Still no idea where it came from. And they never emailed me again or asked for anything else. My real life Nigerian prince. When I was very young, we were visiting my grandmother in another city. We slept in the same bed. In the basement. I woke up and saw a person. Too dark to be recognizable. Enter the room and come to our bed. They looked at us for a while and then left. The next morning, nobody had any idea what I was talking about. I guess it could have been sleep paralysis. But I didn't wake up in a panic. I just watched it happen. Frightened. I had sleep paralysis for years and that's exactly what it was like. My brain felt awake but my body wouldn't move. It's very common to see dark shadowy figures. I'd put my bet on sleep paralysis but that doesn't make it any less creepy or terrifying when you experience it. Snuck downstairs in 7th grade cause I couldn't sleep. Stood in the kitchen for about 10 minutes watching my dad watch Star Trek. When it went to commercial I went to go back upstairs and the garage light was on. Went out and my dad was sorting recycling. Went back in and no one was there and the TV was off. I'm 32 now and still think about it. I was driving back to high school after leaving something in my locker. I had a daydream that another classmate asked me for a ride home. In the lobby I ran into him. And he did just that. Then I drove him home. Felt super weird then. We never spoke even really before or after. Still feels weird now. So I was supposed to be asleep. It was very late one night. My brother and I were upstairs. Asleep. My mom was in the living room and my dad was still at work. So according to my mom, she heard groaning coming from the staircase. She looked and she saw me walking down. I then turned towards her and stared. She described me as someone put into a trance. She then asked what's wrong. I then asked where's Matt? Matt is my brother. I apparently asked this in a trance-like state. She told me he was upstairs in your room. We share a room. I then said no he isn't. She then pulled me to our room and pointed to him. I then just collapsed after seeing him. I have no recollection of doing this. And neither me or my mom can explain it. When I was 7 or 8, I used to spend Friday nights at my grandma's house. And she spoiled the crap out of me. So I loved it. One night, though, I suddenly had a strange urge to call my mom. I dialed my phone number. I knew my own number, right? A woman answered. And I suddenly blurted out, "Mom, come and get me." I have no idea why. To this day, that came out of my mouth. Like I said, I loved it there. And up until that moment had no thoughts of being picked up. Anyways, the person on the other end starts to sound panicky and says, "Where are you?" It hits me that this isn't my mom. So I just hang up and go back to watching TV. So weird. And while it seems so minor, it stuck with me for 30 plus years. One night I went out and was not feeling well. I had a few beers and went home. That night I swear I was awake when death walked in the door and said I was going to die if I didn't stop what I was doing. Had one drink the next day and went to AA. Not drinking was suddenly easy. 20 years later I got diagnosed with a genetic disorder that can cause the same symptoms as alcoholism because it depletes the same vitamin. I was so confused when this nurse said if I drank less I wouldn't be having those symptoms. I was no longer sober, but I drank maybe 4 glasses of wine a week. I stopped drinking completely when I learned this. I spent a night a bit drunk with some friends sketching and sharing new ideas for an art project we were working on. We talked a lot about using a fire extinguisher filled with paint for a background effect on a huge canvas or a full room. But were wondering where we could get one for cheap and if it would work as we expected. Around 5 AM I leave my friend's apartment to take the first subway home, and I shit you not, 2 streets further on my way and in the middle of the sidewalk there is a f***ing empty fire extinguisher. Took it home. It was such a strange coincidence, since I never stumbled upon an empty fire extinguisher in the street at any other point in my life. I was pretty sure I dreamt about it when I woke up later. But nope. It was still in the corner of my bedroom. One night a few years ago I was feeling like shitty after a shot or 2, or 5, so I went to sleep. I dreamt about my GF at the time coming into my room and rummaging through my drawers to find a box of condoms and the hunting knife she gave me. She put a condom on the blade of the cutting knife and then slowly pushed it into my chest while I was holding her and begging for her to stop. After the hilt pressed against my sternum for a moment, she fizzled into dust along with the knife. The pain stayed for a few hours though. The next day I got a ride over to her house and she confessed to me she was a lesbian and we weren't going to work out together once I moved out of state. My dad used to have a girlfriend that I really hated. She was like 20 years younger than him and pretty much a gold digger. I was studying abroad about to come back to my country and I texted my cousin asking if she could come with me to a witch to do some spells against her as soon as I would arrive. I took my flight to return home and the passenger next to me starts chatting and her story with her father was the same with same details as mine. The weirdest thing is that she told me, out of f***ing nowhere and staring right into my eyes, to stay away from witchcraft. She had no way to know. And what are the odds that some stranger bring the witchcraft topic to the table while you are on the other side of the planet? 11,000 kms away from home. When I was in high school, my family lived in a house that sat about 300 feet from the road. Every morning I had a long walk down the driveway to meet the bus. And since we lived in the country, the bus came pretty early. One morning while I was walking, something that looked like a spotlight crossed the yard in front of me. Sort of the opposite of a shadow. It wasn't completely dark outside, so I could see there wasn't anything flying above me. And other than the normal sounds of being outdoors, it was silent. I had forgotten about it until I read this post. So weird. From the age of 16 to about 22 I had a series of vivid nightmares as well as sleep paralysis episodes involving demons. Audible, legible whispering in my ear. Waking up with light scratches on my back and ash on my forehead. I haven't had an episode in close to 2 years. When I was much younger I remember sitting in the classroom talking to one of my good friends about her 2 other brothers. I made a comment how her older brother was so much more attractive than her younger brother. Began to laugh and make other odd comments about their looks, shallow I know. But we were young. I remember feeling bad about our shallowness and said something of the sorts of we better not talk that way because there could be an accident. We kind of just brushed it off and started talking about something else. A couple weeks later her brothers were in a car accident. The older one died. He was only maybe 18. The younger brother survived, however he was severely mentally handicapped afterwards. Always blamed myself for the words I spoke weeks prior to the accident. So, I think it was last year fall. And I was sitting in my house with other friend. We are Latvians. That happened in Netherlands. And I randomly started thinking about Latvian who wants to be a millionaire host for no reason. I haven't heard anything or even thinking about him last 5-6 years. Totally forgot about that he exists. And then I asked my friend if he remember him and he said that sounds familiar but don't remember. Then I just told him that he was host of that show. And my friend asked why. I said, just came in head. And next day I read news that he went to Netherlands with family and died on street from heart attack day before. And I would say around that time also. Pretty often these things happen with me. I cannot explain. Few friends also have seen that I randomly say something for no reason and then it happens. Sorry for my English. When I was 9 I was told to clean my room and we would go to the local video store to rent a video game for the weekend. I clean my room. My mom approves of the cleaning job. We go to the store and I get my game. Whole trip lasts 20 minutes tops. Get back and all my toys are spread out across the floor in neatly organized lines. Very deliberate looking. No one else was in the house. Nothing missing. Just this strange toy shoe. My guess is it was a friend of mine either F-king with me or looking for something of theirs, but no one ever confessed.